What does it feel like to pull the trigger and watch an entire line of enemies drop in seconds? MG42 gunners in World War II didn't have to imagine it. The moment they fired, the battlefield focused entirely on them. But that wasn't even the worst part. Today, we're looking at what life was really like for the men who operated the infamous MG42, how they fought, why they were so effective, and the parts of their job they spent the rest of their lives trying to forget. A weapon decades ahead of its time. Among all the weapons of World War II, few left a deeper psychological impact than the MG42. Allied troops gave German weapons mocking nicknames, but not this one. Hitler's Buzzsaw wasn't a joke, it was a warning. The gun fired around 1,200 rounds per minute, 20 bullets every second. So fast that instead of individual shots, soldiers heard one continuous ripping scream. But how did Germany create something so advanced? After World War I, the Treaty of Versailles banned them from developing heavy weapons. Throughout the 1930s, they quietly ignored that. They experimented, first with the MG13, then the MG34. The MG34 was accurate, reliable, and the first true general-purpose machine gun in history. But it was expensive, delicate, and slow to produce. Germany needed something faster, cheaper, and tougher. That became the MG42, built with stamped metal parts, easier to mass produce. More reliable in mud and cold, and even faster than its predecessor. Over 400,000 were made, and the design was so good that it still lives on today in the modern MG3. The squad built around the gun, but the weapon was only half the story. What made it terrifying was how the Germans used it. In a German infantry squad, the riflemen didn't support the machine gun, they existed to support the machine gun. A 10-man squad revolved around a 3-man MG team, the gunner carrying the weapon and a 50-round drum. The assistant gunner feeding ammo, fixing jams, swapping barrels, ready to take over instantly. The ammo carrier dragging hundreds of extra rounds. Together, they hauled nearly 1,800 rounds, plus spare barrels and tools. The remaining rifleman and squad leader protected the gun at all costs. But being the center of the squad also made them the biggest target. Everyone knew where the real threat was coming from, and it was not hard to spot a weapon throwing 20 rounds per second. Snipers, mortars, tanks, everyone aimed for the MG42 crew first. How they fought, and what it cost them using the MG42 was terrifying on both sides. The barrel overheated constantly and had to be swapped every 250 rounds. Trained crews could change it in seconds. But that short pause was exactly when Allied troops were trained to rush the position. On a bipod, the MG42 delivered brutal bursts. On a tripod with the Lafette 42, it became far deadlier, able to sweep preset firing arcs automatically and fire from cover using a pull cord. It was devastating in defense, but the psychological toll was even worse. A normal infantryman might fire a few dozen rounds in a fight. Machine gunners burned through thousands, often stopping full assaults at close range, over and over. At Omaha Beach, several German gunners fired so many rounds that they took hundreds of lives in a single day. Many were never the same afterward. On the Eastern Front, Soviet human wave assaults lasted hours. Some German gunners broke down during or after battles, completely overwhelmed by what they had done. And then came the darkest part of their job. The orders they never forgot. In several occupied territories, machine gun crews were used in so-called security operations, retaliations meant to crush resistance movements. Cruel directives demanded 50 or even 100 civilians killed for every German soldier attacked by partisans. Machine guns were chosen for the psychological effect. Many gunners remembered those orders for the rest of their lives, not as acts of war, but as moments that permanently scarred them. Some crews spend entire days firing into crowds of civilians. Even decades after the war, a number of surviving gunners refused to talk about these operations at all. Aftermath: when the Allies captured MG42s, they rushed them home for testing. The US even attempted to copy the design with the T-24, but failed. They simply couldn't replicate the German engineering. Nearly a century later, the MG42's DNA is still alive in the MG3, used by militaries around the world today. If you want more stories like this, consider subscribing, because we're just getting started.